If the Lich never existed, then who was it that wished him away? Hold that question for a moment, because it does not resolve. A boy stands in a room outside of time and asks for the worst thing in his world to have never been. And the wish is granted, and the worst thing in his world is unmade so completely that the boy who unmade it was never threatened by it. Which means the boy had no reason to make the wish, which means the wish was never made, which means the thing he unmade was never unmade. The question loops. It circles back on itself and bites its own tail and starts again. And the strange thing, the thing this entire video is about, is that Adventure Time does not treat this as a mistake. It does not treat it as a plot hole to be patched. It treats it as the way the world actually works. Most people talk about the paradoxes of Adventure Time as if they were puzzles, little knots in the writing that a clever fan could untangle if they watched the right episodes in the right order. That is not what they are. The paradoxes of Adventure Time are not bugs in the story. They are the story. Underneath the candy and the swords and the talking dog, the show is quietly building an argument about time itself. And the argument is this. Ooo does not move forward. It repeats. The land of Ooo survives not by progressing towards some final state, but by looping, by returning, by playing the same shapes again with new faces. The loop is not a flaw in the machine. And once you understand that, every one of the show's so-called paradoxes stops being a contradiction and becomes a confession. It is worth being precise about the word paradox here, because the people who watch this show closely will hold you to it, and they should. A plot hole is a mistake, a place where the writers forgot what they had established. A paradox is something else entirely. A paradox is a place where the rules of the world, followed correctly, produce a result that cannot be true and is true anyway. Adventure Time has very few plot holes for a show its size, and that is not what we are here for. What it has, in 3 or 4 carefully built places, is real paradox, the genuine article, situations that the show set up on purpose to fold back on themselves and refuse to resolve. We are not going to pad this with inconsistencies and call them paradoxes. We are going to go deep on the real ones, because the real ones are enough, and because the real ones, taken together, reveal a single idea about how this world works that no plot hole could ever reveal. The show is not confused. The show is doing this on purpose. Welcome to Tome. Get comfortable, because this one goes deep, and it goes slow. We are not going to race through a list. We are going to sit inside 3 structures, 3 loops, and we are going to turn each one over until you can feel the shake of it in the dark behind your eyes. Let us get into it. There is a moment in the season 4 finale where a hand reaches through a hole in reality, and that hand belongs to something that should not be able to reach at all. The episode is called The Lich. It is season 4, episode 26. It aired on October the 22nd, 2012, and it is the episode that opens the door to everything that follows in this video. For most of its running time, it plays like a straightforward chase. The Lich, the undead skeletal force of pure annihilation, has escaped, and Finn and Jake and Princess Bubblegum are racing to stop him from gathering the magical artifacts he needs to enter a place called the Time Room. That is the surface, the chase, the swords, the rush. But watch what the episode is actually doing underneath the motion. It is teaching you the rules of a room you have never seen. The Lich is not trying to kill everyone in the conventional sense. He has tried that before and failed. This time he is going somewhere. He is going to a place that exists outside of the universe, a room at the center of all the dimensions, and he is going there to make a wish. Think about what that actually means. The most destructive being the show has ever produced has concluded that the way to end all life is not to fight life directly. It is to edit the file. It is to go to the place where reality is written and rewrite the line that says, life exists. The Lich understands something that none of the heroes have understood yet, which is that in this world, the deepest power is not strength. It is authorship. The Lich does not want to win the war. He wants to delete the war from the record. Consider the texture of the Lich as a presence, because the show built him with great care to be the one thing in Ooo that does not belong to the loop. The Lich is voiced by Ron Perlman, and that casting choice tells you something about what the show wanted him to be. Perlman gives the Lich a voice with no warmth in it at all. A voice like a door closing in an empty house. And that emptiness is the point. Every other force in Ooo is alive. Which is to say, every other force is part of the cycle of growth and decay and return. The Lich is the one thing that wants the cycle to stop. He does not want power within the world. He does not want a throne or a kingdom or a horde. He wants the end of all things, the final silence, the moment after which nothing recurs. And so when the Lich reaches for the time room, he is not reaching for a weapon. He is reaching for the off switch of the universe, the one place where a being might actually make the loop stop turning. This is why the chase in the Lich feels so different from the chases that came before it. Through 4 seasons, Finn has fought monsters that wanted things inside the world. They wanted to rule, to eat, to steal, to be loved. The Lich wants something outside the world entirely, and the heroes do not fully understand this. Bubblegum and Finn and Jake treat the Lich like a powerful enemy to be stopped, the way you would stop any other threat, with swords and strategy and speed. They are bringing the logic of the world to a being who has rejected the world. The dramatic irony runs underneath the whole episode. The audience can feel that something larger is at stake than the heroes realize, and the show never stops to spell it out. It just lets the Lich move with terrible purpose toward a destination the heroes cannot quite see the shape of. So Finn does the only thing a hero can do when faced with a villain who is about to rewrite the world. He follows him in. The episode ends with Finn leaping through the portal after the Lich, into the unknown, into the room outside of time, and the screen goes to that place where the next chapter waits. The show holds on this for a beat. It does not explain what the room is. It does not tell you the rules. It just shows you a boy chasing a monster into a space where the normal laws have been suspended, and then it stops. That ending is a promise. It is the show telling you, very quietly, that the next thing you see will not obey the physics of everything that came before. The chase was never the point. The room is the point, and the room runs on wishes. There is a detail in the construction of this finale that deserves to be sat with, because it shows how long the show had been planning the loop. The Lich did not arrive in Season 4. The Lich first appeared near the end of Season 2, in the 2-part story of Mortal Folly and Mortal Recoil, where Finn fought him as a more conventional monster, and seemed, for a time, to have beaten him. The show let 2 whole seasons pass, with the Lich apparently dealt with, and then it brought him back, not as the same threat, but as a deeper one, having spent that time off-screen evolving from a monster Finn could fight into a force aiming at the structure of reality itself. The Lich does not stay defeated. The Lich returns. Even the villain who wants to end all cycles is himself caught in a cycle of defeat and return. The show was teaching you its central lesson with the Lich long before it took you to the time room. Nothing here stays gone, not even the thing that hates the very idea of return. To understand why a loop is the natural shape of this particular world, you have to remember what the land of Oo actually is, because the show buries this in plain sight and rarely says it aloud. Oo is not a fantasy kingdom that has always existed. Oo is the future. It is the Earth, our Earth, roughly 1,000 years after a catastrophe the show calls the Mushroom War, a nuclear apocalypse that ended human civilization and left behind a magical, mutated, broken world. The Candy People and the Talking Dogs and the Ice Wizards are what grew up out of the ashes of us. And that single fact reframes everything. This is a world that has already ended once. The apocalypse is not in Oo's future. It is in Oo's past. Oo is what comes after the end of the world. So when the show keeps insisting that nothing truly ends, that the worst things only sleep and return, it is speaking from experience. This world watched its predecessor die completely, and then it grew back anyway, different but alive. Oo is itself the proof of its own thesis. The end of the world was not the end of the world. It was just one more turn of the wheel. And now hold the 2 timescales together, because they rhyme. And the rhyme is the whole argument in miniature. The Mushroom War happened roughly 1,000 years before the show. The Catalyst Comet arrives roughly every 1,000 years, carrying its agent of change. The Wish in the Time Room reaches back to the moment of the Mushroom Bomb, and shows you a farm world, where it never fell. The deep past of this world, the catastrophe that made it, sits exactly 1 comet cycle behind the present. The thing that ended the old world and the thing that returns every millennium are measured by the same clock. This is not a world with a beginning and a middle and an end. It is a world that turns on a 1,000-year wheel, where the apocalypse is just the part of the cycle that happened last time, and the comet is the part of the cycle that comes around again, and the present moment is simply where the wheel happens to be right now. Once you see the timescale, you cannot unsee it. Oo is a single long breath in a creature that has been breathing for a very long time. The room runs on wishes, and the first wish is the worst one imaginable. The story continues in Finn the Human, Season 5, Episode 1, which aired on November the 12th, 2012, as the premiere of the show's 5th season. Finn falls through the portal and lands in the time room, and there he meets the being who lives there, the pink wish granter named Prismo, and the Lich who has arrived to make his request. The Lich makes his wish in a voice like grinding stone. He wishes that all life in the multiverse be extinguished. And here is the thing the show wants you to understand. The wish is granted, not partially, not symbolically. The wish is granted, and life ends. But Prismo, the wish granter, is not a simple genie. Prismo is something closer to a lawyer of reality, a being who grants exactly what is asked while leaving open the seams in the language. And so when the Lich wishes all life extinguished, Prismo whispers to Finn that there is a way out. Finn can make a counter-wish, and so Finn, standing in the ruins of a wished-away universe, makes the wish that defines this entire video. He wishes that the Lich had never existed. Say that slowly. He does not wish the Lich defeated. He does not wish the Lich imprisoned. He wishes the Lich into retroactive non-being, into a state where the Lich was never born, never rose, never threatened anything at all, and that wish is also granted. Well, for a moment on the difference between those two wishes, because the whole paradox lives in the gap between them. The Lich wishes for something to happen, the extinction of all life, an event placed in the present and the future. Finn wishes for something to never have happened, the existence of the Lich, an edit placed in the deepest past. The Lich's wish is a wish about what will be. Finn's wish is a wish about what was. And here is the trap. A wish about the future can be granted cleanly, because the future has not happened yet. But a wish about the past has to reach backward to everything that the past caused, unmaking not just the thing wished away, but every consequence that flowed from it. Finn does not just unmake the Lich. He unmakes everything the Lich's existence ever touched. And everything the Lich's existence ever touched includes the long chain of events that made Finn into the boy capable of standing in the time room making the wish. To unmake the Lich is to begin unmaking the wisher. The wish reaches back and starts to erase the hand that is making it. This is the precise mechanism of the paradox, and the show grants it without flinching. Prismo does not refuse the wish on the grounds that it is logically impossible. He grants it, and then reality has to absorb the impossibility. And the way reality absorbs it is by branching. Rather than collapsing into contradiction, the timeline splits. The world where the Lich existed and the world where he never did both become real, because there is no other way to hold a wish that both requires the wisher and erases the cause of the wisher. The paradox does not break the universe. It widens it. It forces reality to make room for both answers at once, because the question Finn asked has no single answer. If the Lich never existed, who wished him away? Both Finns did. The one who exists because the Lich existed, and the one who exists in the world where he never did. The wish answered its own impossible question by making two worlds, one for each answer. What happens next is the heart of the paradox, so let it sit for a moment. If the Lich never existed, then the Lich never made the wish to extinguish all life. If the Lich never made that wish, then Finn never needed to make the counter-wish. If Finn never made the counter-wish, then the Lich was never unmade. The logic devours itself. And the show, instead of pretending the contradiction away, gives the contradiction a shape and a name. The wish does not simply undo the Lich. It rewrites the entire timeline backward from the Lich's origin. And what it produces is a new world. A world the fans call Farm World. A world where the great catastrophe that created the land of Ooo never happened the same way. The mushroom bomb, the ancient nuclear weapon whose detonation 1,000 years ago created the magical wasteland of Ooo, in this rewritten timeline does not detonate. And so Finn is not a hero in a candy kingdom. He is an ordinary human boy on an ordinary farm, in a world that never broke. Think about what the show has just done to you. It has taken its hero and shown you the version of him that would have existed if the central wound of the entire series had never been inflicted. And that version is smaller, quieter, unremarkable. The Finn you have followed for 4 seasons is a product of catastrophe. He is who he is because the world ended. Remove the ending of the world and you remove the hero. The show does not say this out loud. It does not add a sad piano to tell you how to feel. It just lets you watch Farm World Finn live his unremarkable life. And it trusts you to understand that you are looking at the cost of peace. The boy you love only exists because the world is broken. That is not a small thing. That is the engine underneath the entire show, exposed for a moment in the light of the time room, and then covered over again. Spend a moment inside Farmworld, because the show spends real time there, and it rewards the attention. Finn wakes in a world that is gentle and ordinary. He has both arms. He has parents, a mother and a father, living and present on a working farm, under an open sky. There is no Candy Kingdom, no Ice King, no looming apocalypse. The land is green and whole, and the cruelty of the sequence is that it is not cruel at all on its surface. It is peaceful. It is the life that a child might dream of having. The show invites you to look at this peaceful, whole, ordinary life, and to feel, underneath the peace, a quiet grief, because you know what had to never happen for this peace to exist. The hero you love had to never become the hero. The wound that made him magnificent had to never be inflicted. Peace, in Farmworld, is indistinguishable from erasure. And Finn, in Farmworld, slowly forgets. This is the part the show handles with the most restraint. As Finn settles into the farm life, his memories of Ooo begin to fade, the way a dream fades in the minutes after waking. He is not being tortured, he is being soothed into forgetting. The alternate timeline does not attack him. It absorbs him. It offers him a comfortable life in exchange for everything he was. And the exchange is so gentle that he barely notices it happening. The show is making a point here that connects directly to the loop still to come. The greatest danger in a world that can rewrite itself is not violence. It is comfort. It is the soft erasure of being given a life so pleasant that you forget you were ever anyone else. Finn nearly loses himself, not to the Lich, but to peace. And here is where the loop reveals its true nature for the first time, because the rewritten farm world is not stable. The wish that unmade the Lich did not actually remove the Lich's essence from the multiverse, it displaced it. In Farmworld, the evil that was the Lich curls up inside a new vessel, a small and terrible thing, waiting. The show is telling you in the gentlest possible way that you cannot wish a thing out of existence. In Ooo, you can only move it. The energy is conserved. The darkness is conserved. You rewrite the timeline, and the same shape comes back wearing a different mask. This is the first appearance of the pattern that governs everything. Nothing in Ooo is ever destroyed. It is only relocated, recycled, returned. The loop has begun. Look at what the show is doing with the very structure of the episode title here, because it is not an accident that this episode is called Finn the Human. The title names the thing the wish almost took. In Ooo, Finn is the last human, the one of his kind, defined by his rarity and his loneliness as the only one. In Farmworld, Finn is just a human, one of many, ordinary, unremarkable, surrounded by his own people. The title holds both meanings at once, and the holding of both meanings is the paradox in miniature. The same boy is the last human, and just a human, depending on which curve of the loop you are standing on. The wish did not change who Finn is. It changed which version of who Finn is gets to be real, and it could not stop the other version from staying real too. If Finn the Human set the loop spinning, then Jake the Dog makes it permanent. This is Season 5, Episode 2, and it aired on the same day as its predecessor, November the 12th, 2012. The two episodes forming a single continuous story, split across the season premiere. Finn is now trapped in Farmworld, living a life that is not his, slowly forgetting the universe he came from. And the resolution, when it comes, does not erase the paradox. It locks it in place. Jake, who has been observing through the strange mechanics of the time room, gets to make a wish of his own, and the wish Jake makes is the most quietly devastating piece of metaphysics in the entire series. Jake wishes that the Lich's original wish had instead been a wish to send Finn and Jake back home to Ooo. Follow the shape of that. Jake does not undo the Lich's wish. He does not undo Finn's counter-wish. He reaches further back and edits the content of the very first wish, the Lich's wish, changing it from an act of annihilation into an act of transportation. And Prismo grants it. The result is staggering, and the show states it almost casually. The original universe of Ooo is restored. Finn and Jake are returned to it. Everything is put back the way it was. And Farmworld does not disappear. Farmworld continues to exist as its own branch, with its own version of Finn, running in parallel, real and persistent, and unvisited. Two timelines, both true, both products of the same set of wishes, neither one cancelling the other. There is a layered absurdity in the structure of Jake's wish that rewards unfolding slowly. Jake wishes that the Lich's wish had been different. He does not make a new wish about the world. He makes a wish about a wish, an edit of an edit, a change to the content of something that was itself a change to reality. The wishes stack on top of one another, each one reaching back to revise the one beneath it, like a sentence being rewritten while it is still being spoken. And the room holds all of it. Prismo does not say this is too many layers, this is too tangled, this cannot be done. He simply grants the wish about the wish, and reality absorbs another fold. This is the show telling you that there is no bottom to the editing. You can wish about wishes, revise the revisions, change the changes, and the time room will keep granting, keep folding, keep branching. Because the room does not run on logic. It runs on wishes, and a wish does not care whether it makes sense. This is what a true paradox looks like when a story commits to it fully. The same act of wishing produced two incompatible histories, and the show simply lets both of them be real at once. Prismo, in his calm and slightly tired way, explains the mechanics. Wishing for an event to have happened differently does not delete the old version. It changes everything before the event, and everything after the event, and the consequences ripple in both directions, forward and backward, but the discarded timeline does not vanish. It persists as a wound in the structure of reality, a branch that grew from a cut that the cut also failed to make. The show does not call this a paradox. It does not need to. It just shows you Prismo shrugging, as if to say, this is simply how the room works. Consider how much restraint it takes for a show to deliver its most complex idea through a shrug. A different kind of story would have stopped everything to explain the multiverse. It would have given Prismo a long speech, drawn diagrams in the air, used grave music to signal that this was the important part. Adventure Time does the opposite. It gives you the most consequential metaphysics in the entire series, in the offhand, slightly bored tone of a being who has explained this 1,000 times and finds it unremarkable. And that tone is itself an argument. By treating the branching of realities as ordinary, as just the way the room works, the show tells you that in Ooh, this is not exotic. This is not a special event. This is the baseline physics of the world. Timelines branch the way rivers branch, the way roots branch, the way anything alive branches. It is not a miracle. It is metabolism. The room does this all the time. You have simply never been inside it to watch. And there is a subtle point in the phrase before and after that rewards slowing down on it, because it quietly destroys the listener's ordinary sense of time. In daily life, before and after are absolutes. The past is fixed, finished, unchangeable, behind you. The future is open, ahead of you, not yet real. That asymmetry is the bedrock of how we experience being alive. Prismo's wish mechanics erase that asymmetry completely. In the time room, the past is exactly as editable as the future. A wish reaches backward as easily as it reaches forward, and the consequences flow in both directions at once. Which means that, from the center, the past is not finished and the future is not open. They are the same kind of thing, equally near, equally malleable, two arcs of one curve. The room does not just let you change the past. It reveals that the difference between past and future, the difference our whole lives are built on, is a local illusion that does not hold at the center of things. That is a genuinely disorienting idea, and the show delivers it through a tired pink man on a wall, and trusts you to feel a floor tilt. Watch how Jake arrives at his wish, because the show stages it as a small comedy and lets the enormity hide inside the comedy. Jake is not a metaphysician. Jake is a dog who would rather be relaxing. He approaches the problem of the broken timeline the way he approaches most problems, sideways, intuitively, without the burden of understanding the full weight of what he is doing. And that is exactly why his solution works and why it is so unsettling. A character who fully understood the wish mechanics might hesitate, might recoil from the implications, might refuse to spawn a permanent second universe. Jake does not hesitate. He sees a way to get his friend home and he takes it, and in taking it he permanently doubles reality, and he does not lose a moment of sleep over it. The show is suggesting something gently subversive here. The fabric of reality in Ooh is edited most decisively not by its geniuses, but by its most relaxed soul, the one who does not overthink, the one most at home in a world that does not have to make linear sense. And here is the reframe that this whole section has been building toward. The viewer believes they have watched a problem get solved. Finn was trapped, and now Finn is home, and the danger is over, and the episode is resolved. That is the surface reading. But what actually happened is that a second universe was permanently spawned. The Lich was not destroyed, but merely deferred, and the boundary between what is real and what is hypothetical was erased forever. This is not a resolution. This is the moment the show quietly tells you that resolution is not possible in Ooo. You cannot close a loop. You can only choose which version of the loop you live inside. Finn went home, yes. But the Finn in Farm World also went on living, never going home, never knowing he had another self, never knowing he was a draft that the universe forgot to delete. That is the whole story. 2 boys, 1 wish, both real. Forever. There is a particular kind of loneliness in this that the show never names and never resolves. Somewhere, in a green and whole world, there is a version of Finn who is happy, who has parents, who has both arms, who will live an ordinary life and die an ordinary death, and who will never know that another version of himself exists across an uncrossable boundary, fighting a war, losing pieces of his body, carrying the weight of being the last of his kind. The 2 of them will never meet. They cannot. They are separated not by distance, but by the structure of the wish that made them both. And neither one is more real than the other. The show refuses to tell you which Finn is the true Finn, because the whole point is that there is no true Finn. There is only the loop, and the 2 arcs it traced out of a single decision in a room outside of time. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every time you watch Finn struggle in Ooo, there is a quiet farm somewhere where he never had to. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. What was just established is that wishes in Ooo do not destroy. They duplicate and they leave the destroyed thing alive somewhere in the branching. But there is a loop that goes even further than that. A loop so tightly wound that it has no beginning at all. And to find it, we have to return to the time room and look at the being who lives there. The story picks up again in Wake Up, Season 6, Episode 1, which aired on April the 21st, 2014. The long-awaited continuation of the Lich saga, and the episode that introduces the strangest causal structure the show ever attempted. To understand it, we have to understand Prismo. Not what he does, what he is. Prismo is a wishmaster who lives in the time room. But Prismo is not a solid being. Prismo is a projection. He explains this himself, in the easy tone of someone describing the weather. Prismo is a dream. Somewhere in the multiverse, an old man lies sleeping. And Prismo is the figure that the old man's sleeping mind projects onto the wall of the timeline. Prismo is not alive in the way Finn is alive. Prismo is the dream of a sleeper, given the power to grant wishes, hosted inside a room that exists outside of time. As long as the old man sleeps and dreams, Prismo exists. If the old man were ever to wake up, Prismo would vanish, because the dream would end. The show plants this fact early and lets it sit there, harmless looking, a piece of whimsy, and then it uses it to build a trap with no exit. There is a strange and beautiful inversion in this that deserves to be named slowly. We tend to think of dreams as the unreal thing, the flimsy thing, the thing that dissolves when the sleeper wakes and leaves nothing behind. The waking world is solid. The dream is vapor. Adventure Time takes that intuition and turns it exactly upside down. Here, the dream is the being with real power, the one who can reshape the solid world, edit timelines, grant the wishes that branch reality. And the sleeper, the supposedly real person, is merely the vessel that hosts the dream, important only because the dream depends on him. The dream is the agent. The dreamer is the equipment. In the deepest room of the deepest part of the show, the most powerful thing in existence is not a person who is awake. It is a dream that someone, somewhere, is having. And that is the show telling you, as gently as it tells you anything, that the imagined and the real are not as separate as you think, and that at the center of everything, it may be the dream that is doing the dreaming, and the world that is only the dream. There is something worth slowing down for in the way the show characterizes Prismo, because his personality is not incidental to the paradox. Prismo is relaxed. Prismo is friendly. Prismo lives on the wall of the most powerful room in existence, holding the ability to rewrite any reality, and he treats this the way a person might treat having a comfortable couch. He hangs out. He makes small talk. He grants wishes the way a tired clerk processes paperwork, technically and a little wearily. always honoring the exact letter of the request. And this casualness is the show telling you something about power in, ooh, the being who can edit reality is not a tyrant and not a sage. He is a flat pink projection who would rather be relaxing. The deepest power in the universe is held by someone who is fundamentally chill about it. That is not a joke at the expense of the concept. That is the concept. The center of a looping universe is not tense. A heartbeat is not anxious. It simply keeps time. In Wake Up, Finn and Jake return to the time room for help, and the Lich, who has been dormant inside the body of a captured Billy, follows them in. And the Lich does something nobody expects. He does not make a wish this time. He attacks Prismo directly. He reaches out and he turns Prismo's sleeping host, the old man whose dream Prismo is, into ash. He murders the dreamer, and when the dreamer dies, the dream dies with him. Prismo flickers and fades and is gone. The Wishmaster, the lawyer of reality, the being who can rewrite any timeline, is extinguished by the simple act of killing the man who was dreaming him. The most powerful being in the multiverse is destroyed not by force, but by waking up the sleeper. Except the sleeper does not wake, the sleeper dies, and the effect is the same. The dream ends. Prismo is no more. Notice the cruelty and the elegance of the Lich's method. The Lich is the being who wants to end the loop. And so of course, the Lich does not attack Prismo's power. He attacks Prismo's premise. He understands, as the heroes do not, that Prismo is not a solid thing to be fought, but a dream to be ended. And the way to end a dream is to kill the dreamer. The Lich, the enemy of all cycles, finds the one move that breaks the cycle at its source. Kill the sleeper, end the dream, erase the being who keeps reality editable. For a moment, it works. For a moment, the most dangerous being in OO has succeeded in switching off the heartbeat at the center of everything. And the show lets that moment land with real weight, because if it held, it would be the end. A universe whose center has stopped beating. The loop, finally, broken. Sit with that for a moment, because the show has just demonstrated that even the Master of Wishes is mortal. That even the being who edits reality is himself only a projection that can be switched off. And then, having shown you Prismo's death, the show does something that turns the entire saga inside out. It shows you Prismo come back, and the way he comes back is the deepest paradox in Adventure Time. The loop that has no first link in the chain. Consider what it means that the show was willing to kill Prismo at all, even briefly. Prismo is, by the rules of the world, the most powerful being we ever meet. The one who can grant any wish, rewrite any timeline, edit any past. A lesser story would have protected such a being, would have made him untouchable. Because a god who can be killed is a god who raises uncomfortable questions. Adventure Time killed him anyway, and it killed him in the most humbling way possible. Not by overpowering him, but by ending the dream he was made of. The lesson lands hard. In this world, even omnipotence is contingent. Even the editor of reality depends on something more basic than power, on someone, somewhere being asleep and dreaming. Pull the dreamer out from under the god, and the god vanishes. There is no floor of power so high that it does not rest on something more fragile underneath it. And the most fragile thing in the universe, it turns out, is also the thing the whole universe rests on. A sleeper, dreaming. Here is the structure, and I'm going to lay it out slowly because it is built to make your mind slip if you go too fast. Prismo was the dream of an old man. The old man is dead. For Prismo to exist, someone must be dreaming him. And the someone who ends up dreaming him, the show reveals, is Jake. Not the Jake of the present. A version of Jake who travels forward, who ages, who becomes an old man himself, who lies down to sleep, and whose dream is the time room, and whose dreaming mind projects Prismo onto the wall. Jake becomes the sleeper. Jake becomes the dreamer whose dream is Prismo, which means that Prismo, the being who exists outside of time, the being who grants the wishes that shape the whole saga, is dreamed into existence by a character who only met Prismo because Prismo already existed. This is what is called a bootstrap paradox, and it is the purest form of loop the show ever built. Prismo exists because Jake dreams him. Jake only becomes the dreamer because of events that Prismo set in motion. Prismo causes Jake to become the cause of Prismo. There is no origin. There is no first cause. The loop has no opening. It is a circle with no point of entry, a thing that brought itself into being by being already there. Trace it back as far as you like and you never find a beginning, only the same circle, turning. Prismo is his own ancestor. Prismo is the answer to the question the show opened with. If the Lich never existed, who wished him away? A boy who exists because the world ended, advised by a dream that dreams itself. The questions in Ooh do not have answers. They have shapes, and the shape is always a circle. There is a thought that follows from this, and it is the kind of thought best had slowly, in the dark, on the way to sleep. If Prismo has no first cause, if the loop of his existence has no beginning, then in a sense Prismo has always been, and will always be. He is not eternal in the way a long-lived creature is eternal, simply lasting a very long time. He is eternal in a stranger way. He is outside the chain of causes entirely, a closed loop that neither started nor will stop, hanging in the center of everything, dreaming and being dreamed. And the being who holds the power to rewrite all of reality is exactly this kind of thing, a cause with no cause, a beginning that is also its own end. The show placed at the center of its universe, not a creator and not a first mover, but a loop. There is no one who made the maker. There is only the circle, turning, which is to say, there is only return, all the way down, with nothing underneath it, but more return. And the show makes you feel this not as a cold abstraction, but as something almost comforting, because of how Prismo behaves inside his own impossible loop. He is not tormented by being a paradox. He does not lie awake, so to speak, troubled by having no origin. He hangs out, he grants wishes, he is friendly. Being trapped in a loop with no beginning and no end could be the loneliest thing imaginable, and instead, Prismo is one of the most relaxed and good-natured presences in the whole show. The show is suggesting very quietly that to exist in a loop is not a curse. Prismo has made his peace with it, the way Jake has made his peace with it, the way Finn will make his peace with it at the Comet. The loop is only a prison to the one who fights it, to the one who accepts it. The loop is just home, and home is a place you can be comfortable, even if you cannot say where it begins. Let the mechanics breathe for a moment, because a bootstrap paradox is one of the few ideas that genuinely cannot be held in the mind all at once, and the show knows this. The classic version of the bootstrap paradox is an object or a piece of information that has no origin. A man receives the plans for a machine from his future self, builds the machine, travels back in time, and gives the plans to his past self. Where did the plans come from? They were never written. They only ever circulated. They are real, they exist, you can hold them, and yet there is no point in the chain where anyone created them. Prismo is the living version of this. He exists, he grants wishes that reshape whole timelines. He is the most consequential being in the saga, and there is no point at which anyone made him. He is the plans that were never written, walking around friendly and pink, granting wishes. The show treats this revelation with astonishing calm. There is no dramatic music sting when you realize Jake is the dreamer. There is no character stopping to explain the paradox to the audience. The show simply lays the pieces down, one after another, and lets the listener assemble the loop in their own mind. And when you assemble it, the feeling is not confusion. The feeling is recognition. Of course, Prismo dreams himself. Of course, the universe runs on a loop with no beginning. This is the same lesson Finn the human and Jake the dog taught, only deeper. You cannot find the first cause in Ooh. You cannot find the bottom of the well. Every chain of causes, followed far enough, curls back and becomes its own start. The time room is not a place where time is controlled. The time room is the place where the show admits that time, in Ooh, is a circle pretending to be a line. And consider what it means that the dreamer is Jake specifically. The show could have made the sleeper anyone. It could have invented a new character, a cosmic being, some grand figure worthy of dreaming the master of reality. Instead, it chose the dog. It chose the most ordinary, most relaxed, most unpretentious member of the main cast, and it said, "This is who dreams the center of the universe into being." There is a deep tenderness in that choice. The thing that holds reality together is not a god or a king. It is a good dog, grown old, lying down to sleep, and dreaming. The most cosmic fact in the entire show is rooted in the most domestic image imaginable. An old creature asleep, dreaming a friendly dream. The loop at the heart of everything is warm. That is not a small thing. The show built the deepest paradox of its run and then made it cozy, because the universe it believes in is not cold. It is a place where even the bootstrap paradox is somebody you love, sleeping. So the deepest engine of the show is a loop that dreams itself into being. But a single bootstrap paradox in a back room is not yet a theory of how the whole world works. For that, the loop has to be visible at the scale of the world, not just in a hidden chamber. There is a cycle that runs on a clock of 1,000 years, a cycle that shaped the hero before he was the hero, and it arrives in the sky for everyone to see. That is what the next part is about. There is a moment near the end of Season 6 where the entire Candy Kingdom looks up at the sky and sees a second sun, growing larger, and nobody yet understands that they are looking at the closest thing O has to a god. The setup begins in Hot Diggity Doom, Season 6, Episode 42, which aired in March of 2015. On the surface, this is a political episode. Princess Bubblegum has just lost an election. She has been deposed as ruler of the Candy Kingdom, replaced by a smiling Earl, and the episode follows the chaos of a kingdom under new and incompetent management. But threaded through the political comedy is the arrival of something that does not care about elections. There is a grim irony in pairing the comet's arrival with Bubblegum losing her crown, and the show knows exactly what it is doing. The whole episode busies its characters with a change of rulers, an election, a transfer of power, the kind of event that ordinary politics treats as enormous, as a genuine break in the order of things. And over all of it hangs a comet that arrives every 1,000 years and renders the entire question of who wears the candy crown completely irrelevant. Set against a cycle that turns once a millennium, the change of a kingdom's ruler is nothing, a ripple on the surface of a far deeper turning. The show stacks the small human cycle of politics against the vast cosmic cycle of the comet, and the contrast quietly tells you which one is real. Crowns come and go, earls rise and fall. The comet does not care. It keeps its own time, and its time is measured in ages, and against that time everything the characters are panicking about is a single afternoon. The story completes in The Comet, Season 6, Episode 43, which aired in March of 2015 as the finale of the show's 6th season. And here the show pulls back to a scale it has rarely attempted. This comet is a catalyst comet, and it does not arrive at random. It arrives on a cycle. Every roughly 1,000 years, the comet returns to the Earth, and each time it comes, it carries something the show calls an agent of change, a force that lands and alters the course of the world before departing again, leaving the world transformed and waiting for the next pass. The comet is a clock that ticks once a millennium. And the most important thing about it, the thing that makes it belong in this video, is that the comet has been here before, and it remembers. Pause on that phrase. Agent of change, because the show chose it carefully, and it carries the whole weight of the comet's meaning. An agent of change is not a destroyer and not a savior. It is something more neutral and more unsettling than either. It is a force whose only function is to make the world become different, to break whatever stability has settled, to introduce the new by force. Each time the comet arrives, it deposits one of these agents, and the world that the agent touches does not stay the same. This is what it means for the comet to be a clock. It does not merely mark the passing of 1,000 years, it enforces the turning. It guarantees that no age of Ooh lasts forever, that every settled order will eventually be broken open and remade, on a schedule, whether anyone wishes it or not. The comet is the mechanism by which the wheel is made to keep turning. It is change itself, made into a body, and sent around on an orbit. The comet speaks to Finn, and what it tells him reframes his entire existence. The agent of change carried by the previous comet 1,000 years ago is the same essence that came to be inside Finn. The comet reveals that an ancient piece of itself once attached to a creature, and that creature's lineage leads down through the centuries to Finn himself, by way of his father, Martin. The thing that made Martin who he is, the strange, immortal tinged restlessness that turned an ordinary man into the wandering, abandoning, larger-than-life figure Finn spent seasons chasing, traces back to a piece of this comet. And now the comet has returned, on schedule, after its 1,000-year orbit, and it offers Finn the same thing it once offered the line he descends from. It offers him transcendence. It offers him godhood. It offers to lift him out of the cycle of ordinary mortal life, and make him a being of pure cosmic change. Hold the timing of this against the deep history of the world, because the rhyme is exact and it is the show's quietest piece of architecture. The Mushroom War, the catastrophe that ended the old human world and made Ooh, happened roughly 1,000 years before the present. The previous Catalyst comet, the one whose agent eventually became the restlessness in Finn's bloodline, came roughly 1,000 years before the present. The two deepest facts about Finn's world, the apocalypse that made it and the cosmic seed that made his family, sit at the same distance behind him, one comet orbit back on the same turn of the same wheel. And now the wheel has come all the way around. The comet is back in the sky. The agent of change has returned to the exact point in its orbit where it last reshaped everything. Finn is standing at the precise place on the circle where, a full turn ago, the world was remade. The show does not announce this alignment. It simply lets the numbers rhyme and trusts the careful listener to feel the wheel click into place. Think about the shape of this. The comet comes every 1,000 years. Each time it selects a vessel and offers it elevation. 1,000 years ago, that offer rippled down a bloodline and eventually produced Finn. Now the comet has returned and offers Finn the elevation directly. This is not a one-time event. This is a cycle, a recurrence, the same offer made again to a new generation, exactly as it was made before, on a clock that does not break. The comet is the clearest statement in the whole series of the theory at the center of this video. Ooh does not progress. Ooh orbits. The same forces return on their schedules and make the same offers and demand the same choices, over and over, across the millennia, and the world does not move toward an ending. It moves around a circle. There is a quiet horror in the revelation about Finn's father that the show lets you feel without underlining it. For seasons, Finn chased Martin, his absent father, trying to understand why a man would abandon his son, why he would become the wandering and self-serving figure that broke Finn's heart twice over. The audience and Finn both wanted a human answer, some explanation rooted in choice or weakness or circumstance. The comet provides a different answer, and it is colder. Part of what made Martin who he was traces back to this cosmic thing, this agent of change that attached itself to the line 1,000 years before. Martin's restlessness, his inability to stay, his largeness, and his damage are connected to the same force that now hovers in the sky, offering Finn the chance to leave everything mortal behind. The thing that ruined Finn's father is now being offered to Finn as a gift. The cycle does not just repeat events, it repeats temptations. The same offer that hollowed out the father is held out to the son. And this is the most precise meaning of recurrence in the whole show. A cycle is not just the same event happening again. A cycle is the same choice arriving again at a new person who has the chance to answer it differently. The comet does not force anything. It offers. It made an offer 1,000 years ago, and that offer rippled into Martin and into the damage that shaped Finn's childhood. Now it makes the offer again, to Finn directly, and the entire weight of the moment rests on whether the son will answer the way the bloodline answered before. Will he take the elevation, the escape, the godhood, and become another wandering cosmic force who leaves everyone behind? Or will he break the pattern, not by escaping the cycle, but by answering its recurring question with a different word? There is a generational shape to this that the show treats with unusual gravity for a cartoon. 1,000 years is a long time, far longer than any single life, far longer than any bloodline could consciously remember. And yet across that 1,000 years, the same offer travels, the same temptation arrives, the same cosmic invitation to abandon the small mortal life and become a force. The comet is, in a sense, the show's image of inherited damage made literal and made vast. The patterns that move through a family, the restlessness, the inability to stay, the hunger for something larger than the people right in front of you. The show traces these all the way back to a thing that fell from the sky a millennium ago and will fall again. And the only way to interrupt a pattern that large is for one person at one moment, when the offer comes around to them, to look at everything it promises and say no. Not to defeat it, not to destroy it, simply to decline and to stay. Think about how rare it is for a story to make its climactic choice a refusal of power. Most stories build toward the hero gaining something. A weapon, a strength, a destiny, an ascension. The comet builds toward Finn being offered the largest thing any character in the show has ever offered, and the heroism is entirely in his turning it down. He does not gain a power. He keeps his smallness. He keeps his mortality, his single arm, his ordinary life, his friend, his ground. The show is making an argument that the deepest strength is not the strength that lifts you out of the human condition, but the strength that chooses the human condition over escape. Finn could become a god. He chooses to remain a boy who will grow old and lose things and die. And the comet Denied completes its arc across the sky and departs, carrying its offer back into the dark to make it again to someone else in 1,000 years when the wheel comes around. And here's where the show does the thing that makes the loop into something more than physics. Finn refuses, standing at the edge of godhood, offered escape from the entire mortal cycle, offered the chance to become an agent of change like the one that ruined his father. Finn says no. He does not want to transcend. He does not want to be lifted out of the loop. He chooses to stay inside it, to remain an ordinary mortal boy who will age and struggle and lose people and die, rather than become the cosmic force that abandoned its humanity. This is the behavioral read the whole arc has been building toward. The show does not have Finn deliver a speech about the value of mortality. It just has him say no and stay. And in that refusal, the meaning of the loop changes. The loop is not a prison the characters cannot escape. The loop is a home. The characters choose not to leave. That is the difference between a paradox in Adventure Time and a paradox in a colder kind of story. In a colder story, the loop is a trap, and the tragedy is that the character cannot break it. In Adventure Time, the loop is offered as something to break, and the character declines. Finn could have stepped off the wheel. He could have become the comet's agent, ageless and powerful and free of the cycle of ordinary life. He chose the wheel instead. He chose to keep turning. And the show frames this not as a failure, but as the most human thing he has ever done. To stay inside the loop, knowing it is a loop, knowing it will bring loss and repetition and an eventual end. And to stay anyway, because the loop is where the people he loves are. The comet leaves. It will come again in another 1,000 years and make the same offer to someone else. The cycle is intact. And Finn, who could have ended it for himself, is back on the ground, in the dirt, mortal, exactly where he wants to be. Think about what Finn would have had to give up to say yes. To become an agent of change is to become a force, not a person. It is to trade the small specific life, the friendship with Jake, the home and the tree fort, the ache and the laughter and the loss, for a kind of endless cosmic motion with no one in it. The comet offers freedom, but it is the freedom of the thing that abandons. It is the freedom Martin took. And Finn, who spent so long trying to understand why his father could leave, is now standing in the exact place where his father's leaving began, being offered the very thing that taught a man how to leave. To say no is to refuse to become his father. To say no is to choose the people over the power, the ground over the sky, the loop over the line. The show does not let Finn make this choice with a triumphant speech. It lets him make it quietly, the way real refusals happen, and then it brings him back down to the dirt, where his life is. And here is the strange comfort the episode leaves you with. The comet is not defeated. It is not destroyed. There was never any question of destroying it, because you cannot destroy a cycle. The comet completes its pass and departs, carrying its offer back out into the dark, and it will return in another 1,000 years and make the offer again to someone not yet born. The world is not saved from the comet. The world simply lives through another of its passes and continues. This is recurrence as the show understands it. The danger does not end. The temptation does not end. They return on their schedule, the way they always have, the way they always will. And the only thing that changes, the only thing that can change, is the answer a person gives when the cycle comes around to them. The comet will keep asking. The question is who will say no, and who will say yes the next time it darkens the sky. There is one more thread in this episode that belongs to the loop, and it is the quiet one, the one that does not get the big music. While Finn refuses godhood, an old enemy makes a different play in the same sky. For a stretch of season 6, the penguin who had always waddled silently at the edge of the Ice King's life, the one called Gunter, had turned out to be the dormant form of an ancient cosmic entity named Orgalorg, a planet-eating thing that had been crushed down into the body of a penguin long ago as a kind of cosmic punishment. The arrival of the comet stirs Orgalorg awake. The entity sheds the penguin form and reaches for the comet, trying to seize the cosmic power for itself, to ascend, to break out of the small contained shape it had been sentenced to. The comet does not allow it. And so, at the climax, Orgalorg is undone, not killed, but reduced once more, crushed back down into the harmless form of the penguin, returned to exactly the small dormant state it had occupied before it woke. Look at the perfect symmetry the show stages here. Two responses to the same cosmic offer, side by side. Finn is offered ascension, and refuses it, choosing to stay small and mortal and grounded. Orgolorg seizes for ascension and is forced back down, crushed into the small form it tried to escape. One being chooses the loop and is rewarded with belonging. The other being claws to escape the loop and is sentenced back into it. The comet, the agent of change, ends up changing nothing about the fundamental order. The one who wanted to stay, stays. The one who wanted to rise is pushed back down. The wheel is unmoved. And both of them, the boy and the planet eater, end the episode exactly where the loop wanted them. The boy on the ground he loves, the entity asleep again inside a penguin, waiting. The way everything in Ooo that is too dangerous to destroy is only ever set to sleep and made to wait. Even the apocalypse in this episode is not ended. It is cycled back down to dormancy, set to sleep, returned to the pool of things that wait. Nothing is destroyed. The danger is conserved. It goes back into the ground, into the orbit of things that will return, and the world goes on turning, exactly as it did before the comet came, exactly as it will when the comet comes again. This is the same law that governs the Lich, the same law that governs Prismo, the same law that governs Finn's lost arm. You cannot end a thing in Ooo. You can only put it to sleep. Orgolorg sleeps inside a penguin. The Lich sleeps inside a baby. Prismo is dreamed by a sleeper. The flower sleeps in the wound until it grows. Sleep in this world is not the opposite of life. Sleep is the form that dangerous and powerful things take while they wait for their turn to come around again. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. So the comet shows the loop at the scale of the world, a recurrence on a clock of 1,000 years, and it shows a hero choosing to remain inside it. But there is one more loop, and it is the darkest, because it does not run on wishes or on comets. It runs on death and return. There is a force in Ooo that cannot be killed, only postponed. A thing that dies and comes back, wearing each time a face that hides what it is. To see it whole, we have to go back further than the time room, back to the first time the heroes thought they had ended this thing forever, and watch how thoroughly they failed. There is a moment in Season 2 where Finn fights the Lich for the first time, and wins, or believes he wins, and the show spends years quietly teaching you that he did not. The episode is Mortal Folly, Season 2, Episode 24, and it pairs with the episode that follows it, Mortal Recoil, Season 2, Episode 25. This is the Lich's true introduction as a force in the show, long before the time realm, long before the wishes. Here he is presented as a more conventional Dark Lord, an ancient evil who has been imprisoned and now reaches for freedom, and Finn confronts him directly. The battle is desperate, and it seems to end with the Lich destroyed, hurled into a well of magical liquid, undone, finished. The heroes believe the threat is over. The audience watching for the first time believes it too. But the Lich does not end in Mortal Recoil. He relocates. In the aftermath of the battle, the Lich's essence does not dissipate. It takes refuge inside the body of Princess Bubblegum, hiding inside her, speaking through her, turning the beloved ruler of the Candy Kingdom into a vessel for the thing the heroes thought they had destroyed. The image is genuinely unsettling. A person you trust speaking with a voice that is not theirs. The evil you buried looking out at you through the eyes of a friend. And it establishes, this early in the show, the rule that will govern the Lich for the rest of the series. You cannot destroy him. You can only move him. Throw him in the well, and he climbs into the princess. The energy is conserved. The darkness finds a new vessel. The loop, though no one yet has a name for it, has already begun turning. There is a detail in how the Lich uses Bubblegum's body that deepens the horror and rhymes forward across the whole series. While the Lich is inside Princess Bubblegum, he does not simply hide. He acts. He uses her form, her authority, her access, to try to advance his goal, turning the most trusted figure in the kingdom into an instrument of the thing she has spent her life protecting against. The vessel is not just a hiding place, it is a tool. And this is the pattern that will repeat with Sweet Pea, where the Lich does not merely occupy the child, but claims him, insists that the child is part of him, treats the new body as continuous with his own being. The Lich does not possess and then leave. The Lich inhabits and claims. Each vessel becomes, in his telling, another chapter of the same unbroken self, which is exactly why he can promise to return. To him, there is no death between the bodies. There is only one long life moving from form to form, the way a single melody moves from verse to verse without ever stopping. Think about how far in advance the show planted this. Mortal Recoil aired during the show's second season, years before The Time Room, years before Sweet Pea, and already the central law was in place. The Lich is splashed into a well and survives inside bubblegum. Seasons later, the Lich is splashed with Citadel blood and survives inside a baby. The same structure, twice, separated by years of production. The villain doused in a transformative liquid and surviving by inhabiting a new body. The show was not improvising the loop. It built the loop into the Lich from his very first appearance, and then spent the rest of its run revealing the depth of what it had built. The thing that wants to end all cycles is, more than any other character, the one trapped most completely inside. One. He cannot even stay dead. He returns and returns, vessel after vessel. The eternal enemy of return, who is himself the most returning thing in Ooo. And here is the deepest irony in the entire show, the one that sits underneath every loop we have traced. The Lich, alone among all the beings of Ooo, hates the cycle. He wants it to stop. He wants the final silence, the end of all return, the moment after which nothing comes around again. And he is, of every character in the show, the one most completely bound to the wheel, the one who cannot die, cannot rest, cannot reach an ending, the one condemned to return again and again, body after body, forever. The being who wants the loop to end is sentenced to be the loop that never ends. There is a justice in that, shaped exactly like the world it punishes him with. You cannot win against the cycle by trying to break it. The harder you fight the wheel, the more completely the wheel claims you. The Lich is the proof, turning, unable to stop, the eternal enemy of eternity itself. There is no music under the moment that begins the third loop. The episode is Escape from the Citadel, Season 6, Episode 2, and it aired on April the 21st, 2014, the same day as Wake Up, the second half of the two-part return to the Lich saga. Most people remember this episode. For one thing, the thing that happens at its very end, when Finn loses his arm and a flower grows from the wound, and the show strips out the score and holds on the silence. That moment is justly famous, and we will come to it. But the loop in this episode is not the arm. The loop is what happens to the Lich, and it is one of the most carefully constructed cycles the show ever drew. The reason Finn is at the Citadel at all braids this loop back into the Comet loop, and the braiding is worth pausing on. Finn goes to the Citadel because his father is imprisoned there. Martin, the man Finn has been searching for, the absent father, is a criminal held in this multiversal prison, and Finn travels there hoping for the reunion he has wanted his whole life. What he gets instead is one of the cruelest moments in the show. When Finn finally reaches his father, Martin does not want him. Martin is focused on his own escape, his own freedom, and he treats his son as an obstacle, or worse, as nothing much at all. The reunion Finn dreamed of becomes an abandonment in real time, and it is in the chaos of Martin's selfless escape that Finn loses his arm and the Lich is splashed with the transformative blood. The whole catastrophe of this episode flows out of a father who could not stay, the same restlessness the Comet would later reveal had cosmic roots. The loops touch here. The father who could not stay is the same wound the Comet will one day offer to deepen. The Citadel is a cosmic prison, a place at the edge of the multiverse where the worst beings are held, guarded by enormous Citadel guardians, whose blood is a living, transformative substance. In the chaos of the episode, the Lich, who has been a force of pure death since Season 2, is splashed with the blood of a Citadel guardian. And the blood does to the Lich what it does to anything it touches. It transforms him, but it does not transform him into another monster. It does something far stranger and far more in keeping with the show's deepest logic. It reverts him. The Lich, the embodiment of annihilation, the thing that wished all life extinguished, is transformed by the guardian blood into an infant, a small, innocent, harmless baby, born from the body of the thing that wanted to end the world. Stop and consider what the show has chosen to do here. It has the chance to kill the Lich. The Lich is at his most vulnerable, stripped of his army, cornered at the edge of reality. The show could simply end him. Instead, it transforms him into a baby. The force of death becomes a force of new life. The end becomes a beginning. And this is not a victory in the way it first appears. Because turning the Lich into a baby does not destroy the Lich, it relocates him. It recycles him. It does the exact thing that Finn's wish did back in Finn the Human, where the unmade Lich curled up inside a new vessel in Farmworld and waited. Here, in the most literal possible way, the Lich is reborn. The thing that cannot be destroyed is conserved once again, poured into a new and smaller container, and set down gently into the world to grow. That infant is given a name. The candy people who find him call him Sweet Pea, and he is raised as a child, sweet and gentle and good, with no memory of what he was. And here the loop closes its grip, because the show does not let you believe that the Lich is gone. Over the seasons that follow, in glimpses and in dreams, the Lich speaks through and around Sweet Pea. The Lich claims that Sweet Pea is part of him. The Lich insists that no matter how gentle the child is, no matter how loved he is, no matter how thoroughly the evil seems to have been washed away, he will return. The darkness is not gone. It is sleeping inside a kind little boy, conserved, waiting, certain of its own return. This is an eternal return in the strictest sense, the same force cycling through death and rebirth, never destroyed, only postponed, always promising to come back. There is a tension in Sweet Pea that the show plays with great delicacy across his later appearances, and it is the tension at the heart of every cycle of return. Sweet Pea is genuinely good. He is not the Lich wearing a disguise. He is a real child, kind and frightened of the darkness inside him, raised with love by parents who chose to take in the strange thing that crawled out of the Citadel. And yet the Lich speaks to him, insists on him, claims him as a future vessel. The question the show poses to Sweet Pea is whether a cycle can be broken by love, whether a being doomed to return as evil can, if raised gently enough, refuse the return. The Lich believes the cycle is iron. The people who raise Sweet Pea believe love can bend it. And the show, characteristically, does not settle the argument with a lecture. It lets Sweet Pea grow, kind and afraid, and it lets you wonder, as he wonders, whether he is a person or a postponement. This is the most human version of the loop in the entire show, and it is worth dwelling on why. The wish paradox is about physics. The bootstrap dream is about logic. The comet is about cosmic scale. But Sweet Pea is about a child trying not to become the thing he was born from. Every person who has ever feared inheriting the worst parts of where they came from is standing in that question. The eternal return of the Lich is, at the human level, simply the fear that we are doomed to repeat what made us, that the darkness in our origin will rise again no matter how gently we are raised. The show takes the coldest metaphysical structure it has, the death force that cannot be destroyed, and it pours that structure into the body of a frightened, gentle child. And it asks the only question that matters about any cycle. Can it be refused? Sit with that for a moment, because the show never fully answers it, and the not answering is the point. And notice the form the Lich's eternal return takes, because it is the gentlest and most frightening version of a loop the show ever drew. The Lich does not return by clawing his way out of a grave. He returns the way evil actually returns in a life, which is to say quietly, from within, in the form of an inheritance a person did not ask for and cannot simply discard. The Lich insists that Sweet Pea is part of him. Not that Sweet Pea will be replaced by him, but that the darkness is already inside the child, woven into what he is, present in him from the start. This is the loop internalized. The cycle is not an external monster that comes around again on a schedule. The cycle is a thing carried inside the body of the one who inherits it, sleeping there, part of him, waiting to see whether he will wake it. The most terrifying loop in the show is also the most intimate. It does not chase you. It is already in you. And the only question is what you do with the fact that it is. What the show seems to believe, as gently as it believes anything, is that the cycle cannot be destroyed, but it can be refused, again and again, choice by choice, for as long as the one who carries it keeps choosing. Sweet Pea does not get to kill the Lich inside him. No one in Ooh gets to destroy the darkness they inherited. But Sweet Pea, raised with love, can wake up each day and decline to become it, the way Finn declines the comet, the way the heroes decline the final silence. The refusal is not permanent. It is not a victory that stays won. It has to be made again every time the cycle comes around, every time the darkness stirs, every time the loop offers the old shape and asks to be filled with the old content. That is exhausting, and it is also the only freedom the show believes in. You cannot break the wheel, you can only keep choosing, each turn, what to carry on it. And now we come to the silence. At the end of this same episode, after the Lich has been reborn as a baby, Finn is floating in water, and his right arm is gone, torn away in the chaos at the Citadel, and from the stump a single flower has begun to grow. Jake swims to him and asks if he's okay. Finn does not answer, and the show does something it almost never does. It removes the music entirely. There is no score under this moment. There is no swell of strings to tell you it is sad, no tense sting to tell you it is frightening. There is only the sound of water, and a boy who will not answer, and a flower growing from the place where his arm used to be. The show holds on this. It refuses to interpret it for you. And in that silence, the loop reveals one more face. Because the flower growing from Finn's wound is the same logic as everything else in this video. A loss becomes a growth, an ending becomes a beginning. The arm is gone, and life springs from the absence. Finn does not get his arm back in any simple way. The wound becomes the site of something new, and the new thing is connected, through the strange botany of to the larger cycle of growth and return that runs through the whole world. Even the hero's body obeys the law. Nothing is simply lost. The lost thing becomes the seed of the next thing. The silence under this scene is the show trusting you completely, to feel the loop without being told it is there. A boy floats in the water, changed forever, and from the place where part of him used to be, something is already growing. That is not a small thing. That is the entire philosophy of the show, compressed into one wordless image. Think about the decision to remove the music, because it is a decision. And the show makes it on purpose. Through most of Adventure Time, the score does what scores do. It tells you when to feel scared, when to feel sad, when to feel triumphant. It is a hand on your shoulder, guiding your emotions through the scene. And here, at the most important moment, the show takes the hand away. It lets you stand in the water with Finn, alone, with no guidance, with nothing telling you how to feel. And the effect of that absence is enormous, because when no one tells you how to feel, you have to feel it yourself directly, without the buffer of the music. The show trusts the image to do the work. A boy, a wound, a flower, water, silence. And in that silence, the loop speaks more clearly than any swelling of strings could make it speak. The show withholds in order to reveal. It takes away the music so that you can hear the heartbeat underneath. And notice the rhyme between the two halves of this single episode, because the show is too careful for it to be accidental. In one half, the Lich, the force of death, is splashed with living blood and transformed into a baby. Death becomes new life. In the other half, Finn, full of life, loses his arm and a living flower grows from the wound of the loss. Loss becomes new life. The two events are mirror images of one another, the same law working in two directions. The villain is reborn out of his own ending, and the hero grows something new out of his own loss. And both transformations happen in the same episode, under the same logic, in the same wordless register. The show is not telling you these are connected. It is simply placing them side by side and trusting you to feel the symmetry. Death into life, loss into growth, ending into beginning. Nothing here is ever simply over. Everything that ends is the soil of the next thing. 3 loops then, the wish that spawns 2 worlds and cannot delete what it unmakes, the dream that dreams itself with no beginning, the comet that returns on its 1,000-year clock, and the death force that dies into a baby and promises to rise again. But to see why these 3 are not just clever set pieces, to see why they amount to a theory of the whole world, we have to step back and look at the room where the first 2 of them happened, the room that the entire chain keeps returning to. We have to look at the time room itself, and at the strange status it gives to everything that touches it. The time room is the still point at the center of the multiverse, the place that exists outside of time, and everything we have looked at so far either happens inside it or radiates out of it. The wishes that spawned Farmworld were granted there. The bootstrap loop of Prismo's existence lives there, and the room does not simply sit at the center, inert. It emits what the show calls time waves, ripples that travel out from the center and are felt across the other dimensions. The time room is not a passive vault. It is a beating organ. It pulses, and the pulse it sends out is the rhythm that the rest of the multiverse moves to. Think about that image for a moment, because it is the literal version of this video's whole argument. At the center of everything there is a room outside of time, and it beats, and its beating is the heartbeat of the universe. And what is the nature of that heartbeat? It is repetition. A heartbeat does not progress. A heartbeat does not build toward a finale. A heartbeat returns. It contracts and releases and contracts again, the same motion, over and over. And the moment it stops returning is the moment the body dies. This is the deepest reason the loops in Adventure Time are not flaws. A universe whose center is a beating room is a universe that survives by repeating. The wish that cannot delete, the dream with no beginning, the comet on its clock, the death force that returns as a baby. These are not 4 separate puzzles. They are 4 pulses of the same heart. Ooh lives because it loops. The day Ooh stops looping is the day Ooh dies. Look again at the wish mechanics Prismo explained back in Jake the Dog, now that the heartbeat is in view. Prismo said that wishing for an event changes everything before it and everything after it, before and after. Both directions. A normal cause moves only forward, from past to future, like a line. But a wish in the time room moves in both directions at once, rewriting the past and the future together, which is not how a line behaves. It is how a circle behaves. On a circle, before and after are the same place approached from 2 sides. When Prismo says a wish changes everything before and after it, he is describing a world where causality is not a line but a loop, where the past is as editable as the future, because the past and the future are the same curve seen from different points. The wish mechanics are not a special effect. They are the show telling you the true geometry of its world. Time in Ooh is a circle, and the time room is its center. And this is why Farmworld matters so much, more than a single alternate timeline usually would. When Finn wished the Lich away and Finn the human, and spawned Farmworld, he did not create a different future. He created a different past, 1,000 years of different history, a world where the mushroom bomb never fell. He edited the beginning, and the edited beginning did not replace the old beginning. It joined it, ran alongside it. A second curve, sharing the same center. 2 pasts, both real, both spinning out of the same time room. This is what it looks like when the past is editable. You do not get a corrected history, you get a multiplying history. More and more branches, each one real, each one persisting. None of them deletable, all of them looping around the same still and beating center. The room does not fix the past, the room makes more of it. There is a quiet implication here that reaches past the wish and out into the whole show, and it is the thing that makes the loop feel less like a trap and more like an abundance. If no timeline is ever deleted, if every branch persists, then nothing that ever happened in Ooh is truly gone. Every version of every character, every road not taken, every world that was wished away, all of it is still out there. Real, persisting, looping around the center. The Farmworld Finn is still living his quiet life. The original world is still turning. The discarded drafts are not erased. They are conserved, the way energy is conserved, the way the Lich's darkness is conserved when it moves from vessel to vessel. Conservation is the deepest law of this world, deeper than time, deeper than death. Nothing is created from nothing, and nothing is reduced to nothing. Everything that exists is only ever transformed, relocated, returned. The wish does not destroy and it does not create. It only moves the same conserved stuff of reality into a new arrangement, and lets the old arrangement keep on being real somewhere else. This is why the counter paradoxes was always the wrong thing to chase. A person looking for 10 distinct paradoxes is looking for 10 separate broken places, 10 unrelated puzzles. But there are not 10 broken places. There is one law, conservation, and one shape. The loop and everything we have looked at is that one law and that one shape showing through in a different scene. The wish conserves the Lich and loops reality into 2 branches. The bootstrap conserves its Prismo by looping his cause through Jake. The comet conserves its agent of change and loops it back every 1,000 years. The Citadel blood conserves the Lich and loops him through a baby. 4 scenes, 1 law, 1 shape. To count them as separate paradoxes is to mistake 4 windows for 4 different views, when in truth they all look out onto the same turning wheel, the same beating room, the same single truth, that nothing here ends and everything here returns. Consider too what it means that the time room is described as existing outside of time rather than at the start of time or the end of it. A line has a start and an end. The point outside the line touches the whole line at once. Beginning and middle and end all equally near. The time room is that point. From inside it, The past is not behind you, and the future is not ahead of you. They are both simply there, equally present, equally editable, the way every point on a circle is equally near to the center. This is why a wish made in the time room can change the past as easily as the future. The room is not located in time at all. It is located at the still center that all of time curves around. And from that center, the words before and after lose their ordinary meaning. There is only nearer and farther along the same curve, and the curve has no end because the curve is closed. The detail about time waves deserves one more pass, because it is the show's most literal statement that the universe has a pulse. The time room does not merely sit at the center, holding the power to grant wishes. It emits. Ripples travel outward from it. The show says time waves felt across the other dimensions, and this means the center is active, broadcasting, sending its rhythm out into everything. Think about what a wave is. A wave is a repetition that travels. It is the same motion, the same rise and fall, propagating outward, arriving again and again at every point it reaches. A universe whose center emits waves is a universe organized around repetition by its very physics. The rhythm of the center becomes the rhythm of the whole, and the rhythm of the center we have seen is a loop that dreams itself. The whole multiverse is moving to the beat of a circle with no beginning, a dream dreaming itself, broadcast outward as waves. The heartbeat is not a metaphor the show reaches for. It is the literal architecture the show describes. So when people ask how many paradoxes Adventure Time really has, they are asking the wrong question. They are counting as if a paradox were an item on a list. But the paradoxes are not items, they are symptoms. They are the visible places where the underlying geometry of the world breaks the surface, like the crest of a wave showing the shape of the water underneath. There are not 10 paradoxes in Adventure Time, or 20. There is one paradox. Repeated. The paradox of a world that runs on a loop, and it shows itself wherever the loop comes close enough to the surface for the characters to bump into it. The wish, the dream, the comet, the rebirth, 4 windows onto one circular truth. And this is why the show can be so calm about its paradoxes, when other stories would treat them as crises. In most time travel fiction, a paradox is an alarm. It is the sound the story makes when something has gone wrong, when the rules have been broken, when reality is about to tear. Characters panic. The music turns urgent. Someone has to fix it before everything collapses. Adventure Time never does this. When Prismo explains that a wish changes everything before and after it, he is not warning anyone. He is describing the weather. When the universe turns out to run on a bootstrap loop, no one screams. When the comet returns on its 1,000-year clock, the world does not treat it as an emergency to be solved, but as a season to be lived through. The calm is the thesis. A story that treated its loops as alarms would be a story that believed time should be a line and that loops are failures. Adventure Time treats its loops as weather because it believes all the way down that the loop is simply what time is. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. It is worth pausing to admire how unusual all of this is for a children's cartoon, because the strangeness is part of how the show smuggled its ideas past everyone. Adventure Time aired on Cartoon Network. It ran 10 seasons across 8 years, from the spring of 2010 to the autumn of 2018, and for most of that time, it looked, from the outside, like a colourful comedy about a boy and his dog having goofy adventures in a candy land. That surface is real. The show is genuinely funny, genuinely silly, full of nonsense and warmth. And underneath that surface, with almost no fanfare, it built one of the most committed meditations on time and recurrence that any animated series has ever attempted. It did not put the philosophy on the surface. It buried it in the structure, in the wish mechanics, in the dream that dreams itself, in a comet that comes every 1,000 years. A child could watch the whole run and only feel the loops as a mood, a rhythm, a sense that things in ooh come back around. An adult could watch the same run and find a genuine theory of time waiting underneath. That double address is the show's quietest achievement, and the loops are where it lives. We have looked at the loops as physics and as geometry, but the show is not finally interested in physics. It is interested in people. And the most quietly radical thing Adventure Time does with its loops is to ask what it means to be a person living inside one. So the next part steps away from the mechanics and into the rooms where characters have to choose how to live in a world that repeats. Because if the universe is a circle, then the only freedom left is the freedom to choose your posture inside the turning. Return to Finn at the edge of godhood in the comet and read his refusal one more time, because it is the moral center of everything. The comet offered him the one thing the loop seems to forbid, which is escape. Step off the wheel. Become a being beyond death and repetition and loss. Finn said no. And the reason this matters so much is that Finn knows what staying costs. He has lost his arm. He has lost his father twice over, once to abandonment, and once to the man simply not caring. He has watched friends change and leave and forget. He knows the loop will keep taking from him, and he stays anyway. The show is making an argument here that is almost too gentle to notice. It is saying that the meaningful life is not the life that escapes the cycle. It is the life lived fully inside the cycle, with full knowledge that it is a cycle, refusing the exit, not out of ignorance, but out of love. Set that beside the choice the show makes about the Lich and escape from the Citadel, and the symmetry becomes visible. Finn is offered transcendence and refuses it, choosing to stay mortal inside the loop. The Lich is denied destruction and is instead forced back into the loop, reborn as a baby, made to live again whether he wills it or not. One character chooses the loop, the other is sentenced to it, and the show treats these as two faces of the same truth. You cannot leave the loop by ascending out of it, the way the comet offered Finn, and you cannot leave the loop by being destroyed within it, the way the Lich seemed about to be. There is no exit in either direction. There is only the choice of how to be inside it. Finn meets the loop with acceptance. The Lich meets it with a promise to return and ruin everything again. Same wheel, opposite postures. And consider Jake in Wake Up, who is the most paradoxical figure of all. Because Jake is the one who becomes the dreamer. The show reveals that a future Jake is the old man whose dream is Prismo, which means Jake, at some point, lies down and dreams the being who shaped his entire adventure. Jake does not rage against this. Jake, of all the characters, is the one most at peace with the circular nature of the world. He is the one who relaxes. He is the one who does not need everything to make linear sense. And the show, by making Jake the dreamer of Prismo, the being who is most comfortable with the loop, becomes its center. Jake does not fight the circle. Jake becomes the still point that the circle turns around. To dream the dream that dreams the world, you must first be the kind of soul that does not insist the world be a straight line. This is the thread that ties Finn's refusal to Jake's dreaming. Both of them have made peace, in their different ways, with living inside a world that does not progress. Finn makes peace by choosing mortality. Jake makes peace by becoming the sleeper at the center. Neither of them tries to break the loop, and the show rewards them for this not with escape, but with belonging. The characters who try to break the loop in Adventure Time are the villains. The Lich wants to end the cycle of life by extinguishing it. The comet's offer is, in its way, an offer to break out of the human cycle entirely. The wisdom of the show, the thing it keeps quietly teaching across all of these episodes, is that the loop is not the enemy. The desire to escape the loop is the enemy. To want out of the cycle of life and loss and return is to want what the Lich wants. To stay, knowing what staying costs, is the whole of what the show means by being good. There is a way to feel this that has nothing to do with following the plot, and it is worth naming here, gently, for anyone drifting towards sleep as they listen. A loop is the most restful shape there is. A line goes somewhere, and going somewhere is tiring because you must keep moving forward, or you are failing to arrive. A circle does not go anywhere. A circle returns. It comes back to where it was, and then it comes back again, and there is nothing to arrive at, and nothing to fail. The seasons turn and return. The tide goes out and comes back. The breath leaves and the breath returns. A heartbeat does not progress toward a destination. It keeps time. And there is a deep comfort in a world built on that shape. A world where nothing is finally lost, because everything returns. Where the people you love are not gone forever when a moment passes, because the moment, in some sense, will come around again. Adventure Time believes in that comfort. It built a whole cosmos to hold it. Returned once more to Jake, the dreamer, because his peace with the loop is the quiet model the whole show offers. Jake does not need the world to make linear sense. Jake does not need to win, to arrive, to complete a quest and reach a final state of rest. Jake is already at rest. He is the soul who can lie down in the middle of everything and simply be, who can take the world as it comes, who does not insist that time march toward a meaning. And it is precisely this quality that makes him the one who dreams Prismo. The show is saying that the center of a looping universe can only be held by a soul that has made peace with looping. A striving, linear, progress-hungry mind could not be the dreamer. It would wake up, demanding to know where the story was going. Only a soul at rest can sleep deeply enough to dream the still point. Jake holds the center, because Jake alone among the cast has nothing he needs the future to deliver. He is content in the turning itself. Set the three of them side by side, and the show's moral geometry comes clear. The Lich attacks the loop, trying to end it, and is condemned to be the most looping thing in the world, dying and returning, vessel after vessel, forever. The comet offers escape from the loop, and the hero who refuses the escape is rewarded with the only thing that matters, the people he loves and the ground beneath his feet. And Jake, who never wanted to escape at all, who never even framed the loop as a problem, becomes its peaceful center. The dreamer at the heart of everything. Reject the loop and you become its prisoner. Refuse to leave the loop and you become free inside it. Make peace with the loop completely and you become its heart. That is the whole moral spectrum of the show, drawn out across these episodes. And it is all one teaching. Do not fight the circle. Do not try to leap out of the circle. Find your place inside the turning and turn. So the loop is not only the geometry of the world, it is the moral test of the world. The villains want to break the circle. The heroes choose to keep turning inside it. And this gives us a new way to read the very first question, the one this whole video opened with. If the Lich never existed, who wished him away? We can answer it now, not with a name, but with a shape. The wish was made by a boy who exists because the world broke, in a room that beats like a heart, advised by a dream that dreams itself. And the wish could not hold, because nothing in this world stays unmade. The question has no stable answer, because the world has no straight line. It only has the circle, turning, and the people who choose to ride it. All of which brings us, finally, to the end. That is not an ending. The series finale of Adventure Time is called Come Along With Me. It is a single 44-minute episode, the longest the show ever produced, and it aired on September the 3rd, 2018, closing out 8 years and hundreds of episodes of story. It is sometimes counted across multiple episode slots for runtime purposes, but it is one continuous piece, and it should be understood as one. And the remarkable thing about this finale, the thing that makes it the perfect capstone for a video about loops, is that it does not end the way a normal story ends. It does not close. It returns. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. The finale opens far in the future, with two new characters, Shermie and Beth, wandering a transformed Ooh, finding the relics of the heroes we have followed, listening to the story of the great battle that ended the old era. The whole finale is framed as a story being told long after the fact, in a future that has cycled past the world we know into something new. And at the climax of the finale, the threat is the same threat it has always been at the deepest level, a force that wants to unmake everything, and it is defeated not by destruction, but by song, by connection, by a piece of music called Time Adventure that Rebecca Sugar returned to the show specifically to write, years after she had left to make her own series. And the song says, in essence, that this moment will happen again. That time is an adventure that loops, that the people we love are not lost when the moment passes, because the moment will come around again. Consider the structure of that framing device, because it is doing the work of the entire thesis before a single line of the main story is told. The finale does not begin with the heroes, it begins long after them, with strangers, in a world that has already moved on. Shermie and Beth do not know Finn and Jake as living friends. They know them as legend, as old relics, as a story passed down. And so the very first thing the finale establishes is that the world we have loved for 8 years has already become the past, already been cycled away, already replaced by a new turn of the wheel with new people in it. We are not watching the end of the world. We are watching the world from the far side of an ending it already survived. The finale begins by proving its own thesis. The world does not stop. It loops forward into strangers who tell our story as a fairy tale. And then it tells that story, and the threat at the center of it is, in its deepest form, the same threat this whole video has been circling. A force that wants to unmake, to end, to reach a final silence where nothing recurs. The show had many villains across its run, but the finale reaches for the one that wants the loop itself to stop, and it makes the climax a confrontation between the desire to end and the desire to continue. And the show does not resolve this with a sword, it resolves it with a song. The heroes do not destroy the force that wants to end everything. You cannot destroy such a thing, as we have seen again and again. Instead, they outsing it. They affirm continuation more powerfully than it can affirm ending. They answer the desire for final silence with a melody about return, and the melody wins. Listen to what the show chose for its final emotional note. Not a goodbye, a promise of return. The whole series, which has spent its run building loops inside loops, ends on a song whose central idea is that nothing truly ends, that the configuration of love we are watching will recur, that time is circular, and that this is a comfort rather than a horror. The villain wanted to break the loop, to reach a final silence where nothing recurs, and the heroes win by affirming the loop, by singing that it will all happen again. The thesis of this entire video is sung aloud, gently, in the last minutes of the show. Ooh survives by repeating. The loop is the heartbeat, and the heartbeat, at the very end, is set to music so that you can hear it. There is a real-world echo here that makes the choice even more deliberate, and it belongs in the telling because the show built it on purpose. Rebecca Sugar had left Adventure Time years before the finale. She had storyboarded her last episode for the show back in season 5, the episode Simon and Marcy, and then departed to create her own series, Steven Universe. She was gone. By the ordinary logic of production, her chapter with Adventure Time was closed, finished, in the past. And then, for the finale, she came back. She returned to write the song that would carry the show's ending, the song about time looping and moments returning. Think about that. The person who wrote the show's anthem of return did so by returning. The making of the finale enacted the very idea the finale is about. A voice that had left came back to sing that nothing is ever truly gone. The loop reached even into the production. Even the people who made the show could not stay departed. And the song itself, Time Adventure, is built to be repeated, which is its final and quietest argument. It is the kind of melody that loops, that you can sing again the moment it ends, that asks to be returned to. The lyrics in their essence hold the idea that this moment, the one happening right now, will happen again, and that knowing it will happen again is what makes it bearable to let it pass. This is the entire emotional logic of the show condensed into a song you can hum. Loss is bearable inside a loop, because inside a loop, loss is never final. The moment ends, and the moment returns. The melody fades, and the melody comes around again. The show could not have said it more clearly if it had stopped the story to lecture you. Instead, it sang it, in the last minutes, gently, so that the argument would arrive as comfort, rather than as claim. And there is one last symmetry worth resting in before we close, because it ties the beginning of this video to its end. We opened on a question that ate its own tail. If the Lich never existed, who wished him away? It seemed, at the start, like a trap, a broken piece of logic, a place where the story had tripped over itself. But after everything we have traced, the question no longer reads as a flaw. It reads as a portrait. The question loops because the world loops. The question has no first cause because the world has no first cause. The question cannot resolve because resolution is not a thing this world offers. The question, in other words, is shaped exactly like the place it comes from. It is a small loop describing a large one, a single turning sentence, pointing at a single turning world. The show did not stumble into that question. It built it, the way it built everything, to be a circle. So let the question rest now, unanswered, the way the show intends. The Lich was wished away by a boy who only exists because the world ended, in a room dreamed by a sleeper, who was dreamed into being by the events the room set in motion. And the wish could not hold, because in this world, nothing holds, nothing finishes, nothing is ever truly gone. That is not a failure of the story. That is the story succeeding completely at being what it is. A world without a first cause, and without a final end. A world that is all middle, all turning, all return. A world where the kindest thing you can do is stop demanding that it be a line, and simply let it be the circle it has always been, and find, somewhere inside the turning, the people and the moments worth coming back to. The show spent 8 years teaching that patiently, gently, one loop at a time. It is the most peaceful thing a story has ever tried to say. Nothing ends, everything returns. Rest in that. Adventure Time does not have a pile of paradoxes for you to count. It has one truth, shown from many windows. The world does not progress, the world repeats. And the show wants you to understand that this is not a tragedy to be escaped, but a home to be chosen. The villains are the ones who want the loop to stop, who want a final silence, who want to unmake and to end. The heroes are the ones who stay, who choose the wheel, who sing that it will all happen again, and mean it as a comfort. The loop is the heartbeat of the universe, and a heartbeat is not a flaw. A heartbeat is the sound a living thing makes. As long as ooh loops, ooh is alive. And so the boy floats in the water, with a flower growing from the place where his arm used to be, and the comet turns somewhere out in the dark on its long way back, and the dream dreams itself in the still room at the center of everything, and the wheel turns and turns and turns. If you enjoyed this video essay, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next.